After years of this brutal, grinding war in Ukraine, it feels like the whole world is just desperately looking for a way out. But the path to peace, it's anything but clear. We've got several competing and, frankly, deeply controversial visions that have started to emerge. So let's dive into this. We're going to break down the blueprints that could literally decide the future of Europe. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly captures the impossible choices that leaders are facing right now. There are no easy answers here. It's all about difficult trade-offs with absolutely monumental consequences. And that's the million-dollar question, right? Is it through some decisive victory, a messy negotiated settlement, or something else entirely? The proposals that are on the table offer some radically different answers. Okay, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at why everyone is so desperate for a deal in the first place. Then, we're going to really dissect Donald Trump's leaked 28-point plan, explore the huge debate it's kicked off, look at two major alternatives, and then finally, see where all of this leaves us. The reality on the ground? Well, it's grim. The war has pretty much settled into a bloody stalemate. Both sides are facing just immense military losses, Ukraine's economy is in tatters, and in the countries that have been helping out, public patience and the political will to keep sending aid is starting to wear really thin. And all this exhaustion has created this desperate search for an off-ramp, any off-ramp really, from this highway of perpetual conflict. This is the incredibly tense backdrop for all of these peace plans we're about to talk about. All right, so the first major proposal to really shake up the diplomatic world is this 28-point plan from Donald Trump. It's a vision that definitely reflects that America First worldview. It's very transactional and maybe less concerned with traditional alliances. It was reportedly drafted in secret talks with Russian officials, and critics have just slammed it, calling it a modern Yalta, a deal that carves up a sovereign nation behind closed doors. So the first part of the plan is all about an immediate stop to the fighting. Troops would pull back to new lines, which would effectively formalize the gains made by force. But what's really fascinating here is this proposed peace council, chaired by Trump himself, which wouldn't just be a mediator, it would act as the final judge, the arbiter. And now we get to the territory part, and this is where the plan gets incredibly contentious. It proposes the U.S. legally, formally recognize Crimea as Russian, while also recognizing Russia's control over other occupied areas. And on top of that, Ukraine would have to give up even more land. This approach basically uses Ukrainian territory as the main bargaining chip for peace. And that distinction between de jure and de facto is super important. Think of it this way. De jure recognition is like a formal legal stamp of approval, saying, yes, by law, this is Russian territory. De facto is more like just shrugging and acknowledging the reality on the ground, saying, well, they control it, but without giving it that full legal blessing. It's a huge diplomatic nuance. Okay, so what about security? Well, the plan offers a security guarantee, but it's not NATO's Article 5. It's indirect, and it comes with some major strings attached. Ukraine's military would be capped, its dream of joining NATO would have to be literally erased from its constitution, and, get this, there would be a full amnesty for all war crimes. Just a total pardon. So a proposal like this, it forces this profound question on the whole world. Is ending a war so important that we have to sacrifice our core principles of international law and justice? And that, right there, is the heart of this entire debate. The argument for the plan, the pragmatic view, is that stalking the daily death and destruction is the absolute highest moral priority. From this perspective, any deal that silences the guns, no matter how ugly it is a form of mercy. But the counterargument, of course, is all about principle. It says that a peace that's built on rewarding an aggressor isn't just unfair, it's unstable. It sets a dangerous precedent for the future and basically just sows the seeds for the next conflict. So the call here isn't just to reject a bad deal, but to come up with a better one. This slide really crystallizes those two opposing philosophies, doesn't it? On one side, you've got pragmatism, which is laser-focused on survival, on ending the killing now, even if it means a really tough moral compromise. And on the other side, you have the principled stance, which argues that things like justice and sovereignty are non-negotiable, but it accepts the risk that the conflict could just drag on forever. So, in response to this stalemate and all the controversy over the Trump plan, two pretty significant alternative visions have started to gain traction.
And these ideas move away from a peace that's dictated by force and more toward one that's built on international law and mediation.
This first alternative offers a really comprehensive peace architecture. Its main goal is the full restoration of Ukraine's original 1991 borders, but achieved through diplomacy, not force. And crucially, it insists on justice for war crimes through an international tribunal. It creates demilitarized buffer zones to prevent future conflict, and it cleverly ties any sanctions relief for Russia to proven, verified actions on the ground. And then there's this fascinating third way proposed by India. This is a pretty significant move, and it shows India's ambition to position itself as a major global mediator. By leveraging its strategic independence and its ties to both the West and Russia, India is offering what's been called a golden bridge, a middle path that's designed for consensus, not coercion. Now, what's really interesting about this one is the structured step-by-step approach. It starts with de-escalation, a ceasefire and buffer zones. Then it focuses on the humanitarian side, refugee return and reconstruction. And only then does it tackle the hardest political questions, but through democracy, a referendum on neutrality for Ukraine, and UN-supervised votes in the disputed regions themselves. And when you put them side by side on a table like this, the fundamental differences are just stark. On territory, Trump's plan demands immediate concessions. India's lets the residents decide through a referendum. On justice, Trump's plan offers full amnesty, while the other visions demand accountability. Even the role of the mediator changes from an all-powerful judge to a neutral facilitator. So, where does all of this leave us? Well, it leads to a monumental decision for the world. As these talks intensify, the choice between these competing visions is going to define global diplomacy for decades to come. And that decision is coming up fast. The Trump proposal actually included an initial deadline of November 27, 2025. Now, maybe there's some flexibility there, but the clock is ticking and it's adding immense pressure to find some kind of resolution. Ultimately, it really all boils down to this. Will the war end with a peace deal that's forced upon a weakened nation, or can the world find a way to cultivate a lasting peace through mutual agreement and international law? And that leaves us with one final, kind of haunting question. In the long view of history, what's going to matter more? The moral purity of the deal, or the simple, brutal fact of whether or not it was enough to finally stop the war?